Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream are made possible by the generous support of PNC and the Raskin Family Fund, with additional funding from Robert Conrad, Cleveland State University, the Chautauqua Institution, the Cleveland Clinic, and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. I am Shilpa Kedar, Program Director for Economic and Workforce Development at the Cleveland Foundation, and a proud supporter of City Club's programming. I am pleased to introduce today's forum, our second in a series examining workforce development challenges and opportunities facing the region. Today, we'll talk with people working on the ground to address the information technology skills gaps. The United States is experiencing a rapid and profound transition from an industrial economy to a digital, global, and knowledge-based and service-based economy. The jobs pay well and have low risk of automation, and yet the supply of skilled workers falls short of the ever-increasing demand. According to Code.org, there will be an estimated 1 million more computing jobs than applicants who can fill them by 2020, based on estimates from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics on job creation. And these changes can be felt right here at home. Team Neo's recent Aligning Opportunities report focuses on the mismatch in alignment of the supply of recent graduates to fill in-demand jobs across Northeast Ohio's 18-county region. The assessment found that IT represents a significant misalignment and opportunity in our region, with a gap of more than 6,000 workers needed to fill computer and IT occupations. Our region's aspirations for economic vitality hinge on vibrant health, manufacturing, and technology sectors, all reliant on the availability of quality IT workforce. How are employers addressing this lack of talent, both in the short and long term? What initiatives are being employed to ensure IT workers have the skills necessary to succeed? What is being done to increase the participation of minorities in the IT sector? In 2017, in the state of Ohio, in the entire state of Ohio, only 21 African American students passed the AP Computer Science A exam, one of the most important high school courses for aspiring IT professionals. Here to answer those questions and others are a group of local leaders working every day to address this trend. Moderating our conversation today is IdeaStream reporter and producer Darielle Snipes. Ms. Snipes is an award-winning journalist who has worked in Oklahoma City, Baltimore, Detroit, Indianapolis before coming to Cleveland. Currently, she has returned to daily television as a reporter for Ideas on WVIZ PBS. Ms. Snipes, I turn the forum over to you to introduce our panel.
Thank you very much. And today, speaking on this topic today is Dr. Monique Umphreys. She's the VP of Workforce Innovation and Dean of IT Center of Excellence at Cuyahoga Community College. Daniel Fogarty, he is the Director of Growth at LaunchCode based in St. Louis. Courtney Diorio is the Director of Regional Information Technology Engagement, also known as RITE. And Grady Burrows, Director of Health IT Talent at BioEnterprise. Please help me welcome our panel. So we just heard about the significant gap that is faced here in the region and across the nation. So I wanted to start with you, Courtney, and just talk about what's happening at Wright. I mean, Wright works to engage companies through a unique programming that successfully supports IT talent growth from education to employment. But how are you guys going about that specifically?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. We actually share a vision with an ecosystem that is increasingly vast, but also increasingly better connected around building an industry-responsive, highly skilled workforce. The work that we do starts and stems from the demand side of the equation of workforce. So we work first and foremost with employers and have organized a pretty unique engagement model where they provide thought leadership and accountability, but also drive programming and engage directly with emerging talent. So we're very excited about the work that we do with employers. We also are very committed to building an integrated ecosystem. So we have quite an array of partnerships, many of which are represented on the stage here, and looking to deepen those as well. And then, as you mentioned, we have programs. So our core programming at the moment is high school programs. We have a robust portfolio of IT career awareness, immersion, exploration, development programs that help to illuminate the variety of career paths that are available in our economy and help people understand the skills and experiences that are needed for those pathways.
Great.
In short.
Great. And Grady Bioenterprise is working with students to help them either want to be in the program and also foster their talent, correct?
That's very true. Darielle, about 3 years ago when we answered the call of our sector, and really the charge was if we could help them with one particular pain point and be able to infuse them with something, what would it be? And by far, talent was their response back. So we began to look at the talent pipeline, and clearly when we did our study and our analysis across the region, particularly within Cuyahoga County, we found that less than 50% of the schools within our region had relevant computer science coursework within that building. And unfortunately, the majority of those schools were in the city of Cleveland and its first-ring suburbs. So with a very aggressive and energized health IT community, we got started with several initiatives to begin to address two of the biggest areas or barriers, one being awareness and the other being access. And through our work, we were able to leverage and work with partners such as CSU, such as Microsoft Teals, to bring relevant coursework, particularly two foundational classes, that being Computer Science Principles and AP Computer Science A, into schools, giving 10,000 children more access that didn't have it before, as well as awareness, getting content and materials before children to understand what exactly is health IT in this economy, how can they begin to take advantage of it, and what must they do in order to really set themselves up for success going forward.
That sounds great. And Daniel, your company is not here locally.
Nope.
It's based in St. Louis, and you're in 4 other cities. But the gap is not only happening here, but it's happening in those other cities so that your company is in. Can you just talk about the need that you've seen throughout the region and in other parts of the United States where this gap is so significant?
Yeah. I think Shilpa mentioned some of the numbers. It's estimated that there'll be 1 million unfilled tech roles, right? And when you look at the average salary of those tech jobs, it's $80,000 a year. So if you put that across the whole country, you can do the math. It's a pretty big number that's going to be potentially missing. And ultimately, those 1 million jobs, they fall down into every city in the country. It's going to be everything basically except for San Francisco, I'd say. But yeah, when you look at any company right now, whether it's a bank, an insurance company, manufacturing, you go onto their job boards and put software developer in there, you're going to see more than one job posting up there. And so that's ultimately what our organization was created to do, was to solve this problem and try find alternative pathways to get more people into these career paths. So typically, this working as especially a computer programmer, there's been lots of barriers to get into that field, right? You probably need a computer science degree or a couple of years experience before anybody will employ you. But now that employers are having such pain points in hiring software developers, what we're trying to do is use that pain that employers have and then run training programs to get more people into those jobs. And thus far, our organization is about 4.5 years old. We've gotten over 1,200 people jobs in this career path through this. And so I think this is a starting point, and it's starting. Every city across this country is having this problem and are looking for ways and solutions to solve it. And I think we're at a really important point to start doing things about it now.
So I know this might be a broad question, but is it that people aren't interested in this field, or they're just they don't know what it all entails because there's so many different positions, or is it that that they just don't know?
I have to start with yes, yes, and yes, but oftentimes there's the stereotype of the tech person, the tech bro, the guy in khakis, antisocial. A lot of women especially cannot see themselves in that role. So I think as we work to demystify what an IT person looks like, one of the things that we tell our students often is that everyone could potentially have a career within IT. As we transition to an innovation economy, everyone's going to have to find their place within that innovation economy. So if you have a background in behavioral health, you might be the person working at a software company, but how do you find your place in that world? But even within so many spectrums of IT, we have to find a way to help women and people of color feel comfortable in that. We cannot afford to leave any talent on the table. We've talked about the numbers, but it's really important that we help everyone see their future in IT.
So like what Shilpa said, it was like 20 some odd African American people passed the test. I mean, so how do you get more minorities involved or aware of this if they're in poor neighborhoods and they don't have connectivity or access or even know what a program software person is? How do you bridge that barrier?
I think one of the things that you have to do is you have to start obviously younger and younger. A lot of youth today are huge consumers of technology. There's not many preteens and teenagers who don't have a cell phone, so they're enormously engaged in using technology. But to shift their paradigm and their mindset to become creators of technology and innovators of technology is something that we need to help with. One of the things that BioE has done is we've launched a data science competition where we actually bring young people, over 100 students over the last 2 years, to give them fun and innovative data sets in which to immerse them in, and also give them mentors from industry so that they can work on either gaming data or movie data and show them that we can have a good time, a fun time, an exciting time learning and innovating, and say, oral presentation and visual representation are skill sets that are well within your grasp and you can do this. And they end up actually giving us feedback that, this is something I think I might like to study in college. So it's hands-on, it's project-based, and it's really meeting them where they are with things that are interesting to them at this point in their careers.
But how do you get the minorities that may not even know about that this is available to them?
You go into the schools and you grab them. Over 40% of our students in the contest came from CMSD. Over 60% were children of color. So it's not about necessarily one demographic is not interested, but you have to present something that's appealing, that's enticing, and that's going to be something that's really rewarding for them to spend 2 of their Saturdays out of a weekend and give up their time. And once they get a taste of it, they really do enjoy it and want to come back for more.
Teachers are really important too. So we have a program where we incentivize our teachers to engage in our programs. And by doing that, they'll get some benefits. But we find that we've got an amazing set of teachers across 135 high schools that are looking to avail their kids of as many resources as possible. Now, structurally within the schools, they don't always have the ability to get kids out or to bring speakers in, and so there are some systemic issues we have to address. But I think that leveraging teachers who really want to see their kids take advantage as early as they can of opportunities that are going to illuminate these career paths, and I think catching them through technology is key. But once you get them there, then say, programming skills don't just mean you go on a software development path. They're cross-cutting skills that inform a variety of paths. And so you can talk to a kid who might be exceptionally good at organizational skills and start talking about project management roles, which really leverage a whole different side of IT and IT skills. So you have to get them in a number of different ways, and I guess I would echo also, they need to see themselves in IT, and that's a pretty profound challenge that we have, because you go to a lot of technology conferences or get engaged in certain things that are industry driven, and we all know there's a diversity challenge there. So we're trying to figure out innovative ways to make sure that the folks that are working and are representing these underrepresented folks, that they are connecting.
I think it's also important for us to think about new systemic approaches to engaging the students as early as possible, because the research shows that the number and the rigor of STEM courses that a student has in high school directly correlate with their success in the business world. So the earlier that we could get students exposed to STEM classes, it broadens their minds to how they need to think in order to be successful in IT careers.
Yeah, I would. For me, it's really simple. Like, it's very difficult. If you can't see it, you can't do it, right? And Courtney said, if the tech field as a whole it's a lot of white dudes, right? And so, if you can't see,
White dude can say.
yeah, and if you can't see someone in your community and your family and your neighborhood working in that field, like, how are you going to do it? And so something we do at LaunchCode is, we work with, the people that are our alumni. We try to make them the hero, right? Put them on the website, put them on our blog, get them out into their community at panels, at events, so they can speak to it and say, when I was younger, I didn't think this was possible, but now I'm here and it's possible for you too.
I think it's also important, Grady mentioned, we have this resource of this network of resources that are available to help our teachers. The teachers are the key. When they make it fun, when I started off as a software developer, I didn't know any software developers, and I sure didn't know any that looked like me. But in my schools, they had many, many opportunities for us to do things. I didn't even think of it as learning. We were just having fun. Yeah. And in that process, when I later went back and had to try to decide what I was going to major in, I thought, I wonder if IT could be a career, a viable career, because I just thought of it as something fun. I wasn't thinking about, my later steps, but because it was so much fun, that is really the biggest influence in why I chose IT as a career.
And so I wanted to ask a personal question, but how were you able to sustain? You said before this position, you were in software for 20 plus years, and how were you able to sustain in a field that you didn't see many like you?
I guess the biggest piece is having a strong family network and having a strong sense of self and not letting anybody else define my value. So when other people might have not considered me as a viable option, I would vote with my feet and go in another direction and go to another company. And over time, I'm the kind of person that steers towards whatever is exciting to me, and IT allowed me to do that. It's been the most rewarding career. I can't imagine why somebody wouldn't want to have a career in IT. It's a lot of fun and really challenging. But the best part about IT is you get to shape the future. The future doesn't have to happen to you, and I can't think of anything more amazing than that.
Can I emphasize also the broader definition of educator in terms of the advisors and counselors? That's a group that we hope to impact more than we have. We've heard from our teachers that sometimes the kids are not necessarily not pursuing the careers on their own. They're actually being self-selected not to go that path based on an experience with an advisor or counselor, and that the teachers have asked us, let's get more information into the hands of these folks who are helping them make very important education and career path choices. So that's something that we hope to be doing more and more of in the future.
I think to that point it's important, some of our advisors may not be aware of the shifts.
Exactly.
Because I've had students tell me, well, my advisor told me not to major in IT because all the jobs have been outsourced. Right. And that is so incorrect, So we want to make sure that people have relevant information, because if parents are steering their children towards career choices based on the careers that were available to them as children, the world has changed quite a bit. When my children were in high school, I told them, you are trying to get the broadest base of foundational skills, because the occupation you have in 10 years probably doesn't exist yet. So don't worry about what you're going to be. Worry about developing the skill sets now, critical thinking, problem solving, and the world will be open to you.
I just wanted to jump in, Dariel, and the fact, I believe Dr. Humphrey made a great point. Next to maybe their peer group, the parents, the significant people in the household have a huge impact on our young people, no matter where they come from. But I think we have to do a better job of educating parents as to where the careers are going to be. Just within Health IT alone, there's 200 to 300 open positions each year. So there is a predominant healthcare economy in Northeast Ohio. There's a significant industry around the support of the providing of healthcare, and that's where a lot of the opportunities are for the people who are educated in this region, who wish to stay in this region and continue to live in this region. And to the degree that BioE has gone forth and we've taken painstakingly efforts to create educational pathways to spell out at the high school level, at the collegiate level, exactly what you need to avail yourself to, not only as a student, but as a parent, as a leader of a household, to help guide the curriculum that's going to be in the schools. Parents, communities have to demand for it, and they have to help young people make smart decisions. We provide this on our website, Health IT or HIT in the CLE, and it's really an effort that it's not only one individual, but it's truly a community that's going to take the efforts to move the pendulum forward enough so that young people understand there's great opportunities right here in Cleveland. I don't have to go to a coast in order to take advantage of it, but I can have a career in a good paying job that's going to serve me lifelong and give me lots of freedom to explore other things right here in my backyard.
Can I build on that? But it's actually taking us a little bit of a different direction.
Okay.
Which is, there's a benefit in getting very intentional about communicating with parents as well as their children, in that we cannot rely on the traditional pipeline to meet the needs, and we need the alternative pipelines, and we need to actually think of the parents as potential job seekers, folks that may be underemployed who may themselves benefit by the information we share. And so I think that's actually one of the big, bold opportunities we have as a region, to think about the way we outreach to families in a way that might be able to lift all boats, not just the kids, but also the parents.
So, I'm sorry, I know.
Super
Go
excited.
ahead, go ahead. You guys talk away, talk away.
Yeah, so in just from my research as I was coming here, I was just looking at sort of job and labor data, and so when you look at this region as a whole, it's about 1,500 software developer jobs posted in this region every month, and that's grown from about 1,000 a month about 2 years ago. And right now, 2 out of those 3 jobs are going unfilled. And I think in the region as well, there's about 400 to 500 computer science grads from universities every year. And so you can see those gaps are here now, right? And so you can do something about that now. And ultimately as well, I think probably the worrying thing is that, if these companies aren't getting the talent that they need, they're gonna go where they can find the talent. And that's happening now. And so something needs to be done. Obviously, like working with children, getting more people into STEM and computer science early on is really, really important for long-term growth. But doing something now is also incredibly important too.
So Dr. Umphrey, once you have the kids and they're interested, some organizations are saying that they don't have the skills, and some people say it's that they don't have the skills because they didn't get the education. Can you just talk about the barriers that educators have to teach them the necessary skills? Because IT is changing so quickly. To get the curriculum. The curriculum, to get it approved is so long.
I think oftentimes there's the challenge when people start off by saying, why don't you just, many times that's a sign they're not quite aware of some of the challenges that we may face. The first one would be the formal process that's there to launch new curriculum. We have a 9-month process that you have to go through.
And that's a lifetime in IT.
You already know, so I'm sure our industry partners, so from, having come from industry, I understand the urgency, but I also understand there are certain things and those safeguards are there to make sure that the rigor is there, but that's why we have to be flexible and adaptable. We've implemented Agile within our administration so that we can be responsive. So instead of submitting new curriculum as Java 1390, we would submit it as fundamentals to programming. That would give us the flexibility to adapt to the industry partners, because we don't have any desire to sit up in an ivory tower and develop something that students take and graduate and then they can't get real careers. We are here to be responsive to the needs of industry partners. So we have a very robust advisory board. They guide our curriculum. We're very integrally involved in the blockchain effort here in Cleveland right now. We have already submitted curriculum for blockchain. So we are trying to stay lockstep and try to be as agile as possible given the constraints. That's just one. The formal, like I said, we have to have things in place 9 months ahead of the next year. So that I just hope that industry partners are understanding of some of the challenges that we face. It's not that we're not trying to be responsive, but we also have to go through the same channels. But In saying that, I can also say that if you understand that approval process, part of that is providing documentation that there are jobs associated with, that there's a viable career path. So part of that challenge is historically people have looked at historical records for jobs. And for IT, if it's an emerging field, there are no historical jobs. As we're looking, we're also launching AR/VR curriculum. Well, we know there's an 800% increase year over year, but right now, I can't say that there are 800 AR/VR jobs in Cleveland. But if we had 800 people with those AR/VR skills, more companies would come here and we would have more postings. So, educating everyone in the process is one piece. Another challenge is finding people who want to be IT faculty members, because many people who are on the cutting edge of the technology want to stay in industry, and even those who want to transition, some of them are not prepared for the salary challenges that they might face, and that's a different element. And then also the biggest challenge for us is a lot of people are looking at the college student of yesterday. 49% of America's college students go to community colleges, and if you've seen any of the articles and the research, our students are not yesterday's students. Our average age at Tri-C is 27 years old. We are increasingly facing or supporting our students through real challenges. They have food insecurity, housing insecurity, transportation challenges. So we're trying to provide those wraparound services. My favorite saying is Maslow's over Bloom's. It's not the taxonomy that the students are worried about. It's hard for them to focus in the classroom if they're hungry or if they're worried about where they're going to sleep tonight. So as we try to deal with those challenges, that presents even more challenges for us as administrators.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially with the change of the economy going from manufacturing-based to knowledge-based, when you look at the traditional talent sources across the country, it's traditional education, right? And so there's no diversity in the talent sources. And when you look at how the knowledge economy changes over time, it only gets quicker and quicker and quicker, right? And so when you're looking at people moving forward into their career, you have to be a lifelong learner now, right? You can't just get a degree and work in that field for forever. That's not going to happen 10, 20 years from now. You're going to change careers 3-4 times probably. And we need to create more sort of pathways that go along with traditional education so that people can retrain, change careers, jump into the new thing that's happening so that they can be successful long term.
And you want to say something?
I was just going to say real quick, Dariel, in the speed and being able to change rapidly, what we do, and we found to be very beneficial with the BioE, is that we convene about twice, I'd say every other month, so to speak, bringing together the industry, the educators at the collegiate level. Everyone on this stage, with the exception of Dan because he's out of town, is a part of our convening process. You probably will. Many of the people in the audience convene. So both at the industry level, at the collegiate level, and at the high school level, we come together so we can hear directly from industry what is going to be the demands and the skills that are going to be in need. And we found, quite honestly, that although technology is a huge part of it, another huge, just as important part are some of the soft skills, that entrepreneurial mindset, that lifelong learning, that ability to be team focused and work in groups are just as important to be successful in careers. So we want to give that just as much credibility and importance because we recognize that the war for talent is global, and our students here in Northeast Ohio are competing with students from other regions as well, and we want them to be just as successful.
I think it's important as you talk about those opportunities, when we talk about soft skills, you mentioned earlier someone's coming from a different area. Through my work experience, I'd say probably half of the people that I worked with had formal degrees in computer science and IT, but the other ones are coming from liberal arts backgrounds. If you've had the ability to get those foundational elements in critical thinking and problem solving, especially people with music backgrounds, I keep going back to that one. So many people, you'll see a strong correlation between people with those backgrounds and being able to transition into IT as well.
I want to emphasize what Grady was talking about in terms of employers being engaged continuously. This is not a 1 year, you get together and you talk about it. This is a continuous engagement process. Right now we're grappling mightily with the need for mid-level talent 50% or more of the jobs that we know to be available require 3 to 5 years of experience. It's hard to manufacture experience in a short-term training program. And so we're really trying to address that one with an array of partners as well. And it's conceivable that we can innovate there as well to come up with something that's really going to become something premier that we do here. But it's something we need the employers at the table with the educators and the K-12 pipeline to some extent, even in that conversation, to really talk about how we're going to produce a pipeline.
So you guys have made my job real easy today, but I do want to ask one more question before I have to give up the mic. There's talk about making Northeast Ohio the epicenter for all things blockchain. And for those who don't know, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room does, but for those at home who don't know, it's the digital ledger technology best known as driving Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. There is a conference that it will be dedicated to highlight business and government uses of blockchain technology, and it's set for here in December, where universities and businesses are developing plans to train 1,000 students to write blockchain-related code by next year. So if we have this talent gap here in this region, how will that be possible to make Northeast Ohio the epicenter for blockchain?
There are a lot of assets to leverage. I think it's doable. 1,000 developers, we need to figure out how to generate it between an array of initiatives and partners. We need employers at the table. Fortunately, the folks that are engaged in that conversation are engaged in a number of our initiatives. I know Highland's engaged with BioEnterprise. They're a board member of Wright. Likewise, Key Bank, very engaged. So I think employers, leadership, ecosystem engagement, responsive program, we're going to get there. I didn't mean to. Did you?
No, I agree with everything you said, 100%. And it's going to require a really tight integration and alignment of all of the partners that you just spoke about. Everybody's got to work together. This is not a solo cowboy effort. But Cleveland has a history of innovation and a can-do spirit. When you look at the spirit in which we executed the RNC convention, we put the city on display worldwide, and it was impressive. And I think we can employ those same talents to really pull this off.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that. I think that blockchain, as well as a number of emerging technologies, are vitally important for us to continue to look at and examine. But I think what's also important is that we got to continue to help young people to emphasize computational thinking, algorithmic thought, to be good thinkers at the middle school, high school, and collegiate levels, because that way they can be able to pivot and take advantage of any opportunity that might come our way.
That's a good point.
I was going to jump in. So, when you look at the history of city economies over time, Wall Street started in New York a couple hundred years ago, and it's been there forever since, and that drives New York. The film business has been in LA, the same thing. It drives the economy there. There's consistently competitions between cities across the U.S. for these sort of industries, and if you can sort of put your stake in the ground early and lead it and grow it, that can be, blockchain or some of these more emerging technologies can be the driving force behind an economy in a city going forward. Those competitions are happening now with people trying to win that. And if you can win that, that can change the city forever.
Absolutely. The one thing that I feel like I need to add to my earlier statement, I'm not a Pollyanna. I think it's important to say that as we're looking to make Cleveland the epicenter for blockchain, we need to understand that it builds on competency. So as Grady mentioned, the computational thinking, we have to expose more people to basic digital literacies and then build from there. And it's a capacity building issue. So that's why it takes everybody, but we have to get more people with the basic digital literacies and then add there to the software development skills to prepare them for careers in blockchain.
Today, we are enjoying a forum with local leaders addressing the IT skills gap, including Grady Burrows, Director of Health IT Talent at BioEnterprise, Courtney Diorio, Director of the Regional Information Technology Engagement Board, also known as Wright, Daniel Fogarty, Director of Growth at LaunchCode, and Dr. Monique Humphrey, VP of Workforce Innovation and Dean of IT at the IT Center of Excellence at Cuyahoga Community College. Our moderator is Darielle Snipes of our primary media partner, IdeaStream. We are about to begin the audience Q&A. We welcome questions from everyone, City Club members, guests, students, and those of you joining us via our radio broadcast or live stream. If you'd like to tweet your question, please tweet us at The City Club. and our staff will work it into the program. Holding our microphones today are Youth Forum Council Chair Tiolu Orsania and Membership and Customer Experience Manager Corey Isler. May we have our first question, please?
Good afternoon. I appreciate you being here for this very important topic. I have a two-part question. There's an audience of people who are often, most of the time, ignored when we talk about all these jobs that are available, and that is our citizens who are returning from being incarcerated. And when you talk about mass incarceration and the injustices in the justice system, we could certainly begin to make these jobs diverse if we reached out to citizens who are returning, and many of them are brilliant, they're not on drugs, as the stereotype is, and so it'd be wonderful to find some kind of way to reach out to them. So my first question is, how are you going to do that? And secondly, when you look at what happened with Starbucks, and Starbucks did this implicit bias training of all its employees, when you're talking about an industry that's largely comprised of white men, and you're talking about diversity, there's going to need some training to happen for these white men to welcome these new ethnic groups into the workforce. So my second question is, has that been discussed, the kinds of training that'll be necessary so that you will have a welcome environment?
Can I take the second one? So Wright recently went through a strategic planning process, and it was a very broad-based collaborative endeavor, and a variety of themes came through, and not the least of which was the need to really champion diversity and equity within the IT workforce. And so I can assure you that that is a priority. It resonates broadly with our board and our broader ecosystem. And one of the tactical things we've talked about doing, because we do advocate for employers recognizing that they too have an opportunity to influence the talent shortages and the skills gaps through a look at their own hiring and recruiting practices. And that idea of implicit bias training, which is now much more readily available, and there's a lot of great work going on in the community through the Racial Equity Institute, I think, that has pervaded a lot of local leaders. I think we've got some great assets, and I think there are employers that are increasingly ready to take on some of those opportunities to look at their own practices. So I think that's a very, very important point. I'm not particularly well versed on where the opportunity lies with our returning folks from incarceration. I'm not sure if anybody else would like to address
I thought
that.
that was geared towards the employers, on how the employers are going to address it.
So the conversations that we've had with respect to just a few innovative, pilot programs that we've done, is there still is a fairly rigorous bar in terms of requirement of no convictions for entry into some of these pathways. If you think about data centers and some of the security paths, clearly there are going to be significant issues there. I don't have a lot of working knowledge about, I would say, an aggregate understanding of employers. I believe there are employers that are becoming more flexible on what they require, whether it's relaxing their degree requirements. There may be some, because the shortages are so profound, that may be more open to that population, and I would champion that. I think that's a really, really great thing, because as I said before, traditional pipeline, alternative pipelines together are going to help us solve the problem, and that's clearly a very important population and community of people in our region.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've
I just wanted to jump on that second piece, Meryl, that you brought up about implicit bias. Within the health IT sector, specifically the companies that I work with, they've recognized that diversifying their workforce is a very important initiative that they need to take more ownership around. And we are right now in the midst of launching a pilot, a learn and earn program and model, where we're going to be reaching into the undergraduate ranks and bringing young people directly into the workplace to work full time, to get professional development, to get mentoring. And by this, we not only expect the young people to grow and have an opportunity to get full-time jobs and careers upon graduation, but that they begin to learn both what it's like to work inside a workplace where they're diversifying. They may be the first or one of the few, but also have the mentoring from the individuals who are part of our convening group, teach and talent and coach them on how to be successful, how to navigate political environments within the workplace, how to work within a health IT culture so they can be professional and be productive and be really living all up to the potentials that they truly have. So within the health IT sector, it has been recognized as an imperative that they are very much behind, because unless Cleveland begins to have more people within our health IT cluster that looks like Cleveland, we will truly not reach our potential, and they recognize that's a very, very important value proposition they need to embrace.
I would say on the first point, or the first question, there's a number of different programs across the country that are trying to get some of their trainings into state and federal prisons, so that as people are leaving, they're more trained, have more skills to work into this field. I think the secret of a long-term career in this field is getting 1 to 2 years experience. Once you can get that, an employer doesn't care where you learned your skills, because you've proven that you can do it. And so some of these programs, and we're trying to pilot one in both Missouri and Illinois, is to train these people and then find projects that we can sort of gain ourselves, employ these people ourselves to work on these projects, so they can get that 1 to 2 years experience, so that they can then go out into the open market and reasonably, hopefully, find employment and long-term growth pretty easily.
Well, one thing for us at Tri-C, we already have some training programs that have started working with formerly incarcerated individuals and some currently incarcerated individuals, so that when they get out, they will have be in a better position to have a stronger life, quality of life when they get out. Another thing that we can look at as we're all working together is talking about the overall HR policies, because we understand that not every offense is the same. There are some that are nonviolent offenders. There are some that have drug charges, possession charges, and we also know, if we're going to really address the diversity issue, that the rates of conviction for possession vary wildly by race. So those are things that we might want to look at as we're looking for opportunities to just make sure that we keep Cleveland robust and not leave any talent on the table.
All right, we have a Twitter question next. What do the panelists think of civically organized efforts to recruit talent from other regions?
I'd jump first on this. When you're, when you're, as a region, every region is competing for talent, right? And so it's a zero-sum game. You can steal some from Columbus. Columbus is going to steal some from you, and it's just a circle, right? It goes in cities, and it goes around companies. I think what we really focus on is creating the talent here, right? There's people who are underemployed and unemployed who have the skills to do these things, so why not give them the access to the training to then get into this career path, so that you don't have to steal anymore, you can just create it from the ground up, from the communities up. And so yeah, I think zero-sum game in the competition, but you can use the people, the talent that's here, and give them the access and the opportunity to get in these career paths, and I think that's where you're going to win long term.
Yeah, I think there are two pieces to it. When we think about the workforce development effort, for our companies to stay here, we've talked about every company now has to deal with digital transformation, and they have to have the talent. So if we don't have the skill set here and they have to recruit from other regions, we want the companies to stay here. So we want that, but at the same time, we understand that poaching, whether it's poaching internally and I'm paying you $2 more than you were making at the other company, that's not a sustainable solution. Neither is poaching from Cleveland or Columbus or another city. But ultimately, we want to grow our own talent here.
I would echo yes and yes, but I would also say that we can market this region more effectively, and there is tremendous opportunity, tremendous education assets, tremendous companies across the spectrum of sectors, from startups to major global companies that need IT talent, and we know that people will migrate back for caring for a parent or wanting to connect with their grandparents or for whatever reason. And so I think we need to leverage that and optimize it again, because I think that we would leave some talent on the table if we didn't. So say, for example, in the mid-skill, I mean, there might be some families out there that do want to relocate back here, and why not make a focused effort to get some of those folks who might be those experienced IT people that our companies would want and have a commitment to this place. So I think that's a positive.
I was just going to say, again, for Cleveland to remain relevant and robust, we have to be a destination that people want to move here. It cannot be Cleveland against the world. We can't solve everything. I mean, for the Cavs, yes, but not from an industry perspective. We have to make it open, and as our boomerangers come back, and again, just making sure that this is a destination. People understand the cost of living benefits here. Most people outside of Cleveland don't understand, all the amazing things about Cleveland, our arts district, our historical. There are so many wonderful things that people outside of this region don't know. And those would be things to help us draw more talent here as well.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah. Good morning. Chelsea Cook-Cohn. This question is predominantly for Daniel. I would love to get a perspective on the national landscape. I'm a high school principal, and so we're really looking at developing our high school student talent. But what we're talking a lot about is the amount of experience that we need to enter the workforce. And so Courtney discussed the mid-level need, and we're talking about 2, maybe 3 to 5 years of experience. So what can we do to help our students at the high school level gain more relevant experience, and what cities are doing that well? I know that we're doing a lot here in Cleveland, and I'm proud of the work that we're doing and everybody else on the panel besides yourself, Daniel, but what are other cities doing to actually fill that gap and allow our high school students, our early college students, to gain that relevant experience and move our pipeline forward?
Yeah, I think in probably one of the most important things, I think, is ultimately the employers need more education, right? Because as Courtney says, we want someone with a computer science degree and 3 to 5 years experience, and we need 200 of them. But the supply isn't there, right? So they need to be educated on the simple supply and demand, that if you're not going to give someone an opportunity to get 3 to 5 years experience, it's not going to exist. And in terms of things getting into sort of high school students and beyond that, in terms of getting experience, just because it's not necessarily work experience that you're getting paid for, you can still grow your experience by building civic projects, building your own projects, creating things in teams together where you're getting the exact same experience because you're building a software project. You're just not getting paid for it yet. And that's something we really focus on with our students after we train them. We sort of force them to build a portfolio project so that when they go to an interview with an employer, they can't say, yeah, I did this for the last employer, I did this for myself. And you're showing the exact same set of skills that their software developers have. This student just hasn't been paid for it yet. And so you're showing the exact same things.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Dan, and I know you didn't direct that to me, Chelsea, but we live by our digital footprint, and something as simple as high school students establishing a GitHub account and having that portfolio start at high school can be very helpful. If you're an IT professional or an aspiring IT professional, people want to see what you've done. And they really like to see that evolution and that building over time. So having that digital portfolio that you can reference and show and direct people to can be very helpful as you establish your career and begin to talk to people about employment opportunities or higher education in general.
But doesn't BioEnterprise also have a program that helps college students get internships that are paid already?
Well, that's exactly what I was referencing earlier, the Learn and Earn model that we're launching this fall. Yes.
And I would just echo what you're talking about is we need, in order to create the opportunities to build the experience, you need employers engaged in the process. And so whether it's project-based learning, and you can leverage the civic and the other things you were talking about, but the more integrated we can get our employers in the process of education to be part of that process, the better. So all the push towards more work-based learning, more experiential learning, it's at all levels. I mean, it's middle school, it's high school, it's college, it's workforce programs. Without those components, the programs are not nearly as effective.
We have another question from Twitter now. Retraining of employees was mentioned along with the rapidly evolving IT industry. What recommendations do you have for employers to retrain and reskill their employees to fulfill roles that don't even exist yet, or work with technologies that change constantly?
Yeah, I think especially when you look at the automation of jobs, the history of the world, jobs are consistently automated. And there are a set of jobs that exist now that we know in 10, 20 years' time won't exist. And so I think it's important, and we're actually starting to see this more and more with our partner employers, is understanding okay, this person might work in a customer support role on our tech team, but they're a great person that we want at this organization, and they have a lot of institutional knowledge in this organization. But if we keep them here forever, their job's going to disappear. But why don't we give them the opportunity to earn those, software development skills so that they can take this step up into a career that isn't going to get automated, because they're the ones doing the automation. And it's something that I think is becoming more and more prevalent. At the World Economic Forum in Davos this year, this was the main topic that you were talking about, is the change of the workforce in the future and what's going to come in the next 10 to 20 years. And the fact is, we know these things are happening now, so we can do something about it now and make the difference so that there isn't displaced workers who have lost their jobs due to manufacturing and things changing in the future.
And I can say at Tri-C, Tri-C, Lorain County, Stark State, all the community colleges here in this region, workforce is a part of our mission. So we are actively doing that work every day. We have as many students in our workforce IT programs as we do in our academic programs. So we've trained over 2,500 people in the last 5 years. So we're always working to evolve our programs. We have people coming back. That's why we look at the whole student as early as possible and making sure, you've all talked about lifelong learning. What we understand is the next 3 to 5 years is unprecedented from anything that we've seen. And so we have to be prepared, especially as higher ed institutions, to prepare for that onslaught of reskilling. You have people that are in jobs that currently have very high rates of proposed automation. They're our residents, and they're going to have to learn some new skills. And so we have to be positioned to do that. Currently, we're offering training in areas such as data analytics. We have digital marketing classes to help people who had a traditional marketing background prepare for this new digital world. Like I said, blockchain curriculum. So all of the emerging technologies, we have training available. And again, at the community college, it's our mission, and we want to make sure we make that affordable. And we have customized training for companies that want to either bring cohorts through or look at their entire staff. So we're flexible. Again, we have to be adaptable, but it's part of our mission. So the community colleges are here to help you. And as you see a need, we also work with our industry partners to shape and form new curriculum as well.
Good afternoon. Brett Jones. So as we talk about tackling the IT talent gap, my question is really around access and infrastructure. How are you combating, or how are you sort of correcting access as it relates to rural or dense urban areas? Like internet access, that is.
Unfortunately, well, I know one organization in town, Digital C, has taken that mission on when they were formerly One Community, and that remains a part of their mission. And the whole piece around digital literacy in terms of increasing the capabilities at that very foundational level. I think there are a lot of great examples of organizations in the region that are doing that work. I don't know how well integrated it is. I don't know if it's clearly not at the scale that it ought to be, because I keep hearing that there are still communities and students who have to do homework and papers on their phones. And so I regret I'm not super knowledgeable, but I recognize that it's one of those many themes that undergird this idea that we're talking about a systems transformation, and there are so many different interventions that need to happen, and that's clearly one of them, and ought to be advocated for.
Well, I want to say Digital C, as you said, is doing amazing work, and in full disclosure, I'm a Digital C board member. But I will say that regardless of the amount of work that we're doing, I think it's important to say that although Digital C has taken that torch, we can't do it alone.
Right.
It has to be important to everybody. And as you just said, with access, as we're talking about a digital society, everybody has to realize it might be easy to be comfortable because you have access in your neighborhood and you have broadband connection, but that doesn't mean that your neighbors do. And increasingly, when your neighbors don't, they're becoming digital underclass. That's really, we're becoming a digital society on and off. And you either are connected and you're digitally literate, or you're not. And those that are not are about to be part of the economic underclass. So this is critical, again, for the vibrancy of our region. And it can't just be the work of Digital C. Let me say that. We are here, we're excited, we've done amazing things, but we need everybody to partner with us to continue to increase the amount of connectivity. And thank you for bringing awareness to that issue.
I just wanted to chime in, and Dr. Humphrey laid out a very good scenario and really the state of where we are. But one of the things that BioE is doing this fall is that we're actually launching a community classroom within the Global Center to specifically bring youth from CMSD high schools into the Global Center to take advantage of IT classes and programming classes. And although this is not an answer for the region or for the whole city in general, we believe that we have to start meeting each one where they are right now. And if we can, affect 20 young people by giving them access to relevant classwork that they don't currently have in the four walls, which we would optimally love to have, every child to be able to have relevant computer science education. But until that day happens, we're going to actually bring young people into the Global Center so we can begin to administer and to educate, to help build and provide some of the thirst and intellectual curiosity that they have around coding and around health IT in general.
Today at the City Club, we've been enjoying a forum with local leaders addressing the IT skills gap, including Grady Burrows, Director of Health IT Talent at BioEnterprise, Courtney Diorio, Director of the Regional Information Technology Engagement Board, also known as RITE, Daniel Fogarty, Director of Growth at LaunchCode, and Dr. Monique Humphrey, VP of Workforce Innovation and Dean of IT at the IT Center of Excellence at Cuyahoga Community College. Our forum today is part of the Workforce Development Series presented by PNC with additional support from the Cleveland Foundation and the Deaconess Foundation. We have representatives from all three organizations with us today. Thank you for your support of the City Club programming. Additionally, we welcome guests at tables hosted by Cuyahoga Community College and KeyBank. We thank all of you for being here today. And that brings us to the end of today's forum. Thank you, Mr. Burrows, Ms. Diorio, Mr. Fogarty, Dr. Humphrey, and Ms. Snipes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts at City Club, go to cityclub.org. Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream are made possible by the generous support of PNC and the Raskin Family Fund, with additional funding from Robert Conrad, Cleveland State University, the Chautauqua Institution, the Cleveland Clinic, and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland Incorporated.